Well, indeed, Mike Myers, Radio Hope, Radio Mike, same thing it feels like. Radio Hope is on the line with me to start it off, and yes, he actually helped me with the title, so he is a screenwriter as well for my podcast. How do you feel about doing it all for me in the morning at 8 a.m., just getting me up off my foot?
What did you just say?
I said, how does it feel to get me off on to start me off on the right foot every day? Because I think you literally help me with that one way or another, whether it's creating a title or getting me out of bed. You're there helping me, along with Gabriella, of course. She also helps too. So
extremely humbling, honestly, extremely humbling. I mean that.
Well, let's talk for a bit because talking with Radio Hope, I have a couple of things boiling in my mind today that you might be able to help me with. Do you agree that governors should now be giving people a third option, if they want to do a third lockdown, the option to vote on it? I mean, I just feel like when these governors start to really say, hey, we're going to lock you in again, shouldn't that be a people's choice at this point with all the positives coming through with the testing and all that?
Well, actually, I think maybe it should have been in the first place. Yesterday I had a constitutional expert on, and it was eye-opening. I know so little about it. I didn't know each state had its own constitution.
It does. It really does. And every state, of course, can amend the Constitution. We possibly had a constitutional convention a couple of years ago, but that fell through because people don't understand it, I guess.
Well, and that's part of the problem. It's the lack of knowledge. I think God said something about that. Because of lack of knowledge, my people will perish. I think that's the verse.
Well, what was the conversation like with your guest yesterday? Not only Electoral College, but having with the state constitution. What did you think about that when you guys were talking about it?
Amazing. It just put such a different light on just a lot of stuff, and I don't want to walk around being ignorant. That's not stupid. There's a big difference.
Well, I totally agree, and I think our state needs more of that awareness that we have a constitution and it could be amended if we really wanted to. But that's a different story. How is the Electoral College portion? I know you were dying. I hate to say that in a term like today, but I know you were itching to talk to your guest about that too.
Well, actually, when you're talking about itching, it reminds me of Job and what he went through. And then there's a couple of stories in the Bible about God giving people what we think might have just been hemorrhoids. Anyway, back to what was your question?
Well, I know you were on that path, so why don't you tell us that story? I mean, it's just you went down that path, finish that road if you want to.
Well, I just know people are itching to get rid of them. Lack of knowledge. I'm really kind of all over the place this morning already because of some stuff I posted yesterday, and I'm really serious about, as of today, as of this morning, I have not read a post on stuff that I just posted about social distancing. I need to do this for my own mental health, so anyway.
So you'll be social media distancing is what you were telling me earlier.
As a matter of fact, I will, and I would appreciate it if you could send me, if I don't have it already, your email address, because you and I will just be communicating for a while by text messaging and phone calls. Private.
Okay.
I'm serious about this. It got ugly last night.
Was it mainly people in Iowa fighting back, or was it like a nationwide thing that people were commenting? Like what were the regions that were commenting?
Well, it was primarily a local thing because our governor has decided that it's time to open up the farmers markets, and oh my gosh, I thought that was a good thing, but I also said people just be wise and what was the other one? Be wise and something. Oh, be wise and be optimistic.
Well, that's the problem. See, they don't even want, they're a sector that doesn't even want to open up ever again. And I'm like, no, you can't have that mentality. That'll get us nowhere. Oh, I forgot. You want us to go nowhere now. Now that you have the grips on us, you want us to go nowhere. I kind of remember that now.
Well, and then there's some information out there on Fauci that I posted another deal that kind of sort of ignited some not a lot. A friend of mine that actually was there when she called the nursing home when I got my mother there yesterday or the day before, and she was puking her guts out. This gal was kind enough to call up one of the nurses she knew, and they came out and helped clean her up. But she's definitely not a Trump fan. And, people have taken this whole thing about, what is it, the disinfectant, and just twisted the heck out of it, trying to make him look like an...
Well,
it's just, the hatred is just crazy.
He didn't say drink bleach. I don't know where people got that impression that he said that. What I did have an issue with, though, is that he said use disinfectant by injection. I need an explanation on what the heck he meant by that. I don't understand why he said something like that.
You don't... What he meant about the disinfectant?
By injection. That was was worrisome for me. But what I remember, what I heard was that people were saying he said drink bleach. He never said drink bleach, people. That I know for a fact.
They were talking about the effect of like ultraviolet light rays and disinfecting your hands and stuff. Like when you go wash some of the hand machines, warming, whatever they are, where you put your hand under there and it's got the purple light or whatever, and that's the reference that he was making. He just didn't explain himself well, and I can raise my hand on that. I don't either.
Well,
I sometimes really mess up words,
but this has led to this has led to a further issue. By the way, he's no longer doing press briefings to an extended time now, so that's kind of an interesting change we saw.
And I think it's smart. God says even a fool seems wise if he keeps his mouth shut. That's quite a proverb.
Well, that's my Myerism for today. It is so true. That's my Myerism because it's so true. And I don't think Trump's a fool. I just think every time...
No, I don't either.
Every time he would go in the Q&A every day with this, he just looked bad. They did things to make him look bad, and he took the bait, and it was not good for him, actually.
He is somebody who, you don't lie prostate, you lie prostrate before the Lord if you're going to lie before him. Actually, don't lie, because he knows the truth. And see, there's where my thinking goes. It's scatterbrained this shit a little bit.
Well, you were saying that you felt like you were like him a little bit, that you sometimes don't know how to word things and it just comes out awful, and I disrupted your thought pattern there. I thought you were going on an interesting route there for a second.
I don't know. I just can't keep it. I just can't keep exposing myself. Wait a minute. I got to finish that sentence.
Yes, you do.
There are times I like to expose myself, but as far as
Michael, the kids are listening. Yeah. Come on.
Uh-oh.
I'm kidding. You could say whatever the heck.
Don't do that. Oh, man. You see, now, you and I are done, too. Guess what? I got to tell you something. Yesterday, these two young people came by. They're young to me, and they were, the gal was all choked up, and they were so excited because they had just gotten rid of all of their drugs, and they're trying to start afresh in life, and I hugged this guy. Isn't that terrible? I hugged him.
I think it's beautiful.
He was like 12 or 13.
I think it's beautiful. I don't know why it's terrible. I think if they're okay, hug away. I don't know. Maybe I'm...
Well, and I don't know for sure. So I guess, I was just stupid, and I hate people, and I want everybody to die because I hugged this person. Sarcasm.
I could tell. Oh, you and Trump with the sarcasm vein, Well,
it's a gift.
Okay, now you got me to my next other point that I want to talk about, which I can relate to you because we both saw our parents. I saw my dad yesterday. I'm able to go public with that for the first time in 3 weeks. And I think it's kind of wild how you had just seen your mom 2 days before, and now I get to see my dad after 3 weeks and quarantining and whatnot in the city. Anyway, masks are kind of patriotic at this point because you want to protect your loved ones. And I know Ed Delgado. I love Ed, but I know that he doesn't think the mask thing is needed. I know he doesn't think, it should be, people should be wearing it. But I say, you know what? It's a patriotic act to actually protect yourself right now. But they cannot make us wear masks forever, right?
Well, and that's the other thing when you have people saying, yesterday I think it was yesterday, I used the term business as usual, and you pointed that out, and that was a part of my Facebook post. And business as usual. I'm looking forward to it, but there are people, there are pessimists out there saying it ain't going to happen, folks. You better get used to this. And until we come up with a vaccine, Bill Gates, money, probably, forget it, because it's not going to be normal again.
No, it's not going to be normal. Although I did think it was, there was such a weird thing where I saw city workers not wearing masks. And as Ed pointed out, why aren't these officials wearing masks? Why aren't the Cuomos of the world and the de Blasios, who are seriously going hard on us wearing masks, why aren't they doing it? Why aren't they setting the example? Very interesting point, I think he makes.
Well, I guess it has to do, it's kind of like the pastors that need a second jet because the other one is maybe, I don't know, getting refueled. I don't know. I mean, it's just crazy.
Oh, Jesus, pastors. All right, so I guess social media distancing is going to be your title, and I'm sure you're going to go deeper than just the title there. So what can we expect today at 9 a.m. on Radio Hope?
Well, I have a list here, believe it or not. A Mommy's Progress, Optimism or Pessimism, and I'll be playing the song Pessimistic by Mr. Alice Cooper, one of my favorite evangelists. I'm going to have Eric Kretzinger in the studio on Thursday, who's running for local office. And let's see, might put my mom on for just a short time. And Hosea 4, verse 6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge because you have rejected knowledge. I reject you from being a priest to me. And since you have forgotten the law of your God, I also will forget your children. Ouch. That's kind of heavy.
That is heavy, and I'm sure we're going to hear an explanation on that. And I guess you feel that's relevant to the time we're in, right?
Well, actually, the book of Hosea, God tells Hosea to go marry a whore.
All right, so I'm not that deep into the Bible, but I definitely will now check out that part of it just to see what's...
It is an amazing story. And if it really has a lot to do with idolatry. And if you happen to check out the Message, which was written by Eugene Peterson, it's his translation of Scripture, you will find the word whore instead of adulteress.
Huh.
I prefer whore.
Well, now that we're on this, what do you think of all the translations that go on? The New King James, the King James Bible, what is your go-to version for the Bible, and what's most accurate, would you say?
I'm having a little bit of a spiritual low right now because I what you're saying is reminding me of it would be the New King James. If I had to grab one as I ran out of the house, I'd probably grab my parallel, which is the NIV, the New International Version, and the Message. Probably would grab that one because it's larger print. But other than that, it would be the New King James, actually, would be the...
I believe I actually took Bible in college, and I think I have the NIV still. I have it in my shelf here, so let me look at it. I love how hands-on it was for me to understand it all, so that was good.
Well, the KJV would be... No, the NIV people, the KJV people say, well, so you're reading the non-inspired version. It's like, whatever. People, lighten up. Oh, they should want to squeeze my cow.
Or that little pooter you keep talking about.
Yeah.
Because squeezing cows is not...
Practice.
Only do that if you need your milk, I guess, so...
Okay, well, hey, I love you, man.
Love you, bud.
And email address,
Uh,
mike@radiohopeshow.com.
well, that's kind of simple, Mike. Get in touch with him, Mike at radiohopeshow.com, because it looks like he's going off the grid social media-wise.
And I won't be checking in with you on Messenger anymore because I just removed that from my phone, and I'm not going to be reading the responses to my post this morning. I'm done. I got to do this for my own mental and spiritual health. I'm totally serious.
Whew. Mike at radiohopeshow.com. I'm writing it down as we speak. So, all right. Well, I got to ask you this last question. How long do you think it lasts? How long can you be social media celibate, if you will?
I'm writing that term down. Social media. Well, until the what do they call that when the line that they use that starts to taper off and level off when the hatred begins to level off. So I really don't know how long it'll be. It might be best for me just to.
Oh my goodness! Can you see the news media, the weatherman? Hatred today with tapering off later today. 40% chance of hatred. Tapering off though once we hit the nighttime.
Well, a guy that is a regular that I've come to be really, what I think, pretty good friends with, to the point where he's watching my garage door to see if it's open or not. I think he's a little upset with me right now. He mentioned Sweden when I talked about people. Let's kind of start to get back to quote normal. And he mentioned Sweden, and I looked that up this morning, and evidently he was slamming me. Tell the people of Sweden that because it's pretty nasty in Sweden right now.
Well, you know what? I want you to remove yourself from the nastiness of social media. I can't wait to hear about it. We can't wait to hear about it. Radio Hope, 9 a.m. Eastern. Hey, Mike, we'll do it again tomorrow morning.
God bless, man.
Okay.
Alex, I love you, man.
Love you too.
If you were here right now, I'd hug you.
Absolutely. God bless you, Mike, and we'll be listening.
All right.
Bye.
All right. Bye.
All right. That was the always informative, entertaining Mike Myers, Radio Hope. And now, without further ado, my guest today, Andrew Maggio, talks about how he is living through COVID-19 with autism and how he has really, really developed a platform to talk about his triumphs, struggles, and everything in between with autism. Andrew, welcome aboard.
All right. Well, I have a very good friend here on the Saturday Sit Down. His name is Andrew Maggio, and his message as someone with autism is getting out there. I've seen him do conferences. By the way, Andrew, welcome in.
Thank you.
You and I were on the Irish trip together. We all went to Ireland with the Physically Challenged Irish American Youth Team. That was 11 years ago. And since then,
12.
12. Tell us your journey, telling your story and inspiring people and whatnot, educating people actually as well.
Well, where do I begin? Well, growing up with autism was not an easy task, as there were multiple obstacles I had to face, some of which were very challenging, particularly the social skills. Now, of course, even though it was the 90s at the time when I was growing up, it was like, how I put this, it was still a little bit known. I mean, years ago, for me with autism, it was like something new, something unique. Although historically speaking, the term autism didn't come until the 1940s when the acronym for autism comes from the word art meaning self. Oh,
okay.
But as for me, growing up with it, as I mentioned, it's not an easy task. They were like finding services and to see, well, how is this going to help me get into the working world? How is this going to help me get into the world of education? Well,
Right.
it varies on certain things because for most of my life I've been in the special ed world. Now I know some of you who may be listening might be thinking, but my child is not in special ed, ed,
Mm.
and well, in it varies on different people who go on the educating field. Some may do regular ed, some may do special ed, and there may be the occasional doing both. It all depends on on your child's needs. And if they feel like they're ready for a challenge, go for it. I mean, don't just hide them in the dark. Don't just hide them in the corner. Go push your child to do the possible. That's what
Well,
parents would do.
that's the thing. So, and I find that in the autism community, some people are very late to figure out that their child has it because there's some stigma to getting it figured out, right? That they have autism. What's your message to those who are afraid to get the diagnosis if signs are showing?
Do not be afraid to do testing for autism. It may sound scary at first, but my message is you gotta start with the early child intervention, and because as if you do it too late, then you may find out now by the time your child reaches like 12, 13, or 14 that my child has autism and I should have given him or her special treatment. No, you have to start early intervention. Otherwise, your child is pretty much screwed over.
Right. And so you've been to St. Rose. Did you graduate St. Rose already?
Yes, I graduated in 2014, and despite having an IEP diploma, I managed to get the college education in. Now, I didn't get a bachelor's or a master's, but I got a certified certificate, and was actually through a program with an organization up in Albany, or as I like to call it, Cuomo Town. A place called an organization called Living Resources, which has a program called CEP, which stands for College Experience Program. Basically, the program is conjoined with the College of St. Rose and allows students who receive an IEP diploma a chance of a college experience. And when they mean college experience, they mean college experience in every studying, every homework, even how to live independently, such as cooking, cleaning, doing things that you would do when you're not living with your parents. I mean, let's be real. Do you really want to live with your parents for the rest of your life? I don't think so.
Well, as someone who has autism, you've been a champion of it, but what challenges do you face? Did you face? Do you still what challenges have you faced and fought during this time?
Well, one thing I have faced was socializing, and social skills. Was something that was the biggest obstacle because as I was always shy. And certain noise factors got in my head where I started to bang back and forth like a monkey banging its cymbals. But as time rolled on, I realized I had to get out of my shell. Come 12 years ago, I went to Ireland and back in 2008, and I realized that was the starting point of me getting out of my shell when I was heading on to foreign land, interacting with people with other types of disabilities besides autism. And from that point on, I was like, there's the starting point of breaking out of my shell. But I had to escalate to more. Come to my years down in Tappan Zee High School, where the shell really started.
And Tappan Zee was a public school, right? Just for people
Yes,
to clarify.
it was a public high school. I was still in special ed, but I was in a district-based program.
Okay.
So come to Tappan Zee High School, where my shell started to break even further by interacting people who were regular ed. And as I'm interacting with them, I realized that, these people are nice, and that they have, and that some of their problems are no different to those of people with special needs. And I've come to this conclusion that all the students at OU Boats that were always complaining to me how they were mean to them probably had their own issues and would try to drag me into their ring of fire.
Wow. And how did that, what Ring of Fire, tell us, elaborate on that for us a little bit.
Ring of fire meaning their own issues.
At the high school. Okay, gotcha.
Right.
So what were you able to get sort of like accommodations or intensive focus on what you needed to do to accomplish goals in high school, or were you kind of thrown in the mix?
Well, I mean, when I first came to the district-based program at Tappan Zee High, which is named the Cove program, there were a lot of TAs. There were some main teachers who still taught. Although I spent most of my life at OU BOCES with special ed, the remaining then of my final years of special ed was there, and they gave me certain tools I need because my days at Tappan Zee were the final 2 years of my special ed life before transfer into Albany life, and I had like certain assistance when it came to like figuring out a certain math problem, figuring out a certain reading problem. But sometimes they would ask me for assistance because with the high knowledge that I have on certain things, they would often ask me like, well, can you help me with this? Can you help me with that? Can you help this student with this? Can you help this student with that? And I'm like, well, yes, I can. And, at the same time, here I am a student, and there are times where I have to go and play a TA because some of the TAs were a little inexperienced, and I had to go and help out at certain points.
That's amazing. Andrew Maggio is who we're talking to. You've got sort of your own brand going on here, and we're going to get into that in a second. But in the public school setting, a couple of questions. Were you amongst others with autism, or what was that ratio like?
Well, for the first 12 years of my life, the majority of students were mainly with autism, some verbal, some nonverbal, some who have a physical sense, also known as Rett syndrome. But then come 2010, when I left OU BOCES, I started to interact with other students, and I realized, I'd done this once before by interacting with other people with disabilities, such as our little adventure over in the Emerald Island. And I realized, if I'd done this in Ireland, what makes you think I could do the same thing in the other school as well? So keep going myself. But sometimes when there was a high school that came around, they were kind of curious about me as well, like how I interact, how I'm handling these noise, how I'm handling certain sensory issues. Well, that's simple. I had teachers who really did hardcore type lessons and were not afraid to break certain rules, because the majority of special ed teachers will often be nitpick and not challenge as much. No, I had teachers who really challenged me to go the extra mile. And there's one particular teacher who really there, and I'm not sure if she's able to listen to this or not, but if you are hearing this, Claudia, man, and you really put me in the extra mile, and I want to give huge thanks to you.
Well, that is awesome, and I'm sure they appreciate the thanks. And as someone who's gone through the public school system, is it a case by case where autism or autistic kids should be able to be in the public school, or are there cases where they may not be able to be in that setting? What is your role on that?
Well, it varies on situation. As I mentioned before, for there are verbals and nonverbals. Now there was this. Now for me because I'm in the verbal sense, I was able to handle the public school system no problem. But some students might have a little challenge with that. What I would recommend is that first I would put them in a special ed setting. If they feel like they're ready, if they feel like they want to challenge themselves by doing regular ed learning, then I say, you know what, do it. But if they're not ready to do it, wait a couple years, because the age limit to graduate special ed is up to 21. So if they decide to challenge themselves by age 19 or 20, they only have a minimum short of years. I would challenge them when they're in their mid-teens. Basically put them in a special ed settings at first, but then wait until like they're like 16 or 17, and then see what they're like in a regular ed setting.
Well, let me ask you this, because to be honest with you, your speech right now is so good. How did you get to that point? And obviously speech is a worry for parents with their kids who have autism and whatnot. How did you develop your speech into being able to be a public speaker?
It was not, that what is a long story, which may require 3 parts, but I'll give you a short version. So what got me into public speaking was all the way back in November of 2010. There was a trip I was going on, which I was not too keen on wanting to go, but I had to go anyways because it was a class trip. Yeah, I was going on this class trip, and we were going to this little art gallery. Now I felt like, well, what's the point of me going to an art gallery? I'm not going to learn anything from these man-made art. But then all of a sudden, and as I'm starting to get used to this trip and starting to like it, I get pulled aside from one of the teachers. I'm like, I'm in deep doo-doo. I can't really swear because I'm not sure how public this is. But anyways, I was like, I'm in trouble, and they saw me being bored of the trip. But turns out they wanted me to do like a speaking engagement to a group of teachers in one of the programs at Rockland Bose's. And I'm thinking to myself, well, this is something I've never done before. How am I going to do this? What are my tools? So as I got adapted to my first speaking engagement, I realized, you know what? This is something I want to do in life. I mean, this is something I think I can do, because as I realized that was just step one. And then as time rolled on, and I realized my public speaking needed improving. Then so I took like a public speaking class with the CEP program out at St. Rose during my senior year, and I've learned so much. And after that, I learned to adapt to doing speaking engagements, not just in colleges, but in some high schools too. Now,
and are you still doing that even though we have COVID? Are you still doing that through Zoom, or what are you doing now?
About a couple of weeks ago, I did a public speaking and via Zoom, but it was for the CEP program, because when you become an alumnus, you get like special privileges on like giving back to the program who helped you. So basically, usually I tend to speak about autism, the do's and don'ts, challenging them, the difference between encouraging and discouraging. But in this case, is my tutor allowed me to speak whatever I wanted, and I said, why don't I talk about theme parks? I like about theme parks. So we set up our little speech. I typed in the Zoom account, and 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, boom. I'm speaking to them about theme parks, and everyone seemed interested in my speaking.
Well, that is why I have you on today. Also, because I know you're doing. You wanted to give us some takes on what's going on in the autistic community during COVID-19. But I want to ask you one other thing first. When I first started this interview, I called you inspirational, and I know, as someone who also is disabled of some sorts, calling inspirational is not really do it justice. It's more educational what you're doing. So what is it like when you're done the speech and say, oh, that was so inspirational? Do you like it? Do you not like it? What's your take on that?
It varies on what you mean by inspirational, because I always watch like these news channels who go out and do like a news coverage story about a person not with either autism or Down syndrome living out their normal daily lives, and they say such an inspiring story. Well, I don't want to be this guy, but unfortunately, they're just living in normal lives. There's nothing inspiring about owning your own degree or or working out at the gym. We're just living our normal lives. We're just trying to make a living. I mean, yeah, we may have disability, but that doesn't define us for who we are. We go out, we do what we need to do to pay our bills, to pay our food, to pay our clothes, and that's just being normal. The best,
Right?
Yes.
No, go for it. You were about to say the best. What? I'm curious.
The best way to see it as something inspiring is as if you are surviving, as if you were a cancer survivor. It's if you survived a terrorist attack, or in recent days, surviving COVID-19. That's inspiring.
Tell us about that, because I'm very curious as to what the autistic community and how you're dealing with this whole quarantine, what you're telling others during this time.
Well, how I'm surviving COVID-19, I haven't lost my sanity, so knock on wood. but here we are. We're all social distancing, and one thing we always encourage people on the autism spectrum is socializing, and yet we can't go out in public as much because of this pandemic. And the only way we go out is if we were to wear masks or gloves. But there's going to be a point where this virus blows over, and everyone gets to socialize again. But then you realize you're looking at your child on the autism spectrum, thinking, "Oh no, my daughter lost all the socializing skill." Well, what I say, make like a video game, hit the reset button, and try to be patient and teach all over again. I'm sure there's some things they may have but sometimes they may remember some of the social skills. And part about it is we are living in a generation where we have so many video conferences like Zoom,
Yeah.
that you don't need to worry about losing social skills, because after all, this is 2020, not 1920.
Well, that is very true. So where can people connect with you to get on a Zoom with you to get some inspiration from it, but really get some education from you as well?
Well, like someone were trying to let's say set up a speaking engagement of some sense, or
Yes, absolutely.
well, originally I had one email address, but I created another email just strictly for speaking engagements and to keep things professionally, because I can't give out my personal email, just for a speaking engagement, because you don't know what's on my personal email. Just stick to my professional email, and so I would either contact me by the email speaker91@gmail.com. And if you want my number, you're going to have to contact me via email. I am currently setting up a up a website. It's in due process. I can't make any guarantees when will be set up. I want to say September, but I also want to say January of next year. Yeah, because most websites were not built in a day, particularly
Right,
with,
right.
uh,
Well, this has been very intriguing, Andrew, and talking with Andrew Maggio. He's at St. Rose, and so this is your livelihood, or what else are you doing? Is this your work? Is this how you're able to bring income in? I hope you don't mind me asking. I'm just curious.
well, what I'm currently doing right now, I'm in retail, but because of this pandemic, I'm currently on furlong. But what I usually do for working is Marshalls in Burlington. Now, having two jobs is not easy, but you know what? As long as you have a positive attitude, you can get through the day and night lickety split.
Well, employers that may be hesitant to hire those who have autism, what's your advice for them? I mean, do you feel like there's still a stigma to hiring, or has that eased up a little bit?
I could definitely say that has eased up, not just a little bit, but a lot. Because back in 2015, when I was applying for Marshalls, I thought I was going to have to wait like 2 or 3 weeks. But as soon as I did my job assessment, I was hired right on the dot. And
Wow.
thinking to myself, wait a minute, they only hire people right on the dot on television. I must be dreaming. But I was awake. I was awake because that's
And they
how,
hold you accountable just like anybody else, right? I mean, you're treated as an equal there.
well, to an extent. I mean, sometimes some of my coworkers tend to joke around a bit, but I had to remind them, you don't want them. We have to keep working. We can't joke around as much.
Well, do they ever joke on you, or not really?
Well, sometimes they joke on me, but I've been in retail long enough to know the difference between appropriate humor and inappropriate humor. But times it will be a point where they would have an inappropriate humor, and there's some of our people from a special ed program coming in to help out. And what I would do is, if they were about to start an inappropriate humor, I would shout out "minors" as their way of saying "keep the humor cool."
Wow, that's really interesting. I guess that's leading to another question I have as we talk about this. Thick skin. You do public speaking. You were getting out of your shell. How important is it to have thick skin as someone who does have autism, or someone who might have a disability? How important is that for us to survive in this society?
It's very important to have an open mind when interacting with people with autism, and an open heart, because some people may look at a person with autism and think that we have no emotions. We definitely have emotions. We cry, we bleed, we get angry, we laugh. We have on-key humor. We have off-key humor. We're basically humans, just in a different sense.
Well, that is important to note, and I think it is because sometimes people with disabilities are just seen as like a quota or a diversity chip and not really a human being. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And one of my key missions is inclusions in colleges, particularly with the IEP diplomas. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some colleges who are putting in the inclusion for students with disabilities. However, there is one particular diploma that they're not seems to be honoring as much as they should, and that's the IEP diploma. I mean, over time, I always hear how colleges say they're all for diversity, but if you leave students with IEP diploma in the dust, you're not really for diversity, because there are people who are African Americans who have IEPs, Latinos with IEPs, Asian American, and women, and folks in the LGBTQ, and you say you support all of that. But if you're gonna leave the if you're gonna leave those who have IEP diplomas in the dust, guess what? You're a hypocrite.
Well, we have to we got to do another conversation about that, because IEPs, I'm sorry, diplomas of that nature are interesting to talk about as well, and how people should be hired with GEDs and other various diplomas, as you reference. Andrew, I've seen some things where Autism Speaks has been criticized. I don't know if you want to go down that road, but why has Autism Speaks been criticized by some out in the social media world?
I can answer that, and I can honestly say that the person who started this anti-autism speak thing it's clearly someone who is an anti-vaxxer, claiming that they spreading these stupid rumors about autism speaks and leaks, and I'm like thinking to myself, well, where are they getting this information that Autism Speaks is mostly doing it for research and not for parenting care? Simple. It's obviously made up rumors. And the only other person who would ever want to make up rumors would be anti-autistics or anti-vaxxers. Because you may have... Oh, yes?
Very interesting. So you think the anti-vaxxers are part of the Anti-Autism Speaks? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, because, anti-vaxxers have always been anti-autistic, and they will do any ways to out the autism community.
Well, has that, I don't know, I just don't see that in the mainstream media. Is there a conversation like that? Is there a conversation of that nature? I feel like that should be told more, don't you?
Absolutely. The problem is the mainstream media doesn't seem to grasp and understand that people in the disability community are feeling discriminated in certain ways. The only time they ever talk about the disability world is just the good side. You don't hear much of both sides of the spectrum. And I like say this rant over and over, not just with the people who help me with services I give, but I say this to my parents, and I get like blatant results. But like people who are like ABC, NBC, CBS, and sorry, Alex, Fox News, they're all sided. And they need to see both sides of the disability community, not just one.
All right, well, we've been talking about the speaking, we've been talking about that. I want to know about your family. Like, how has your parents love you, right? But how has family played a role either in, I don't know, being nervous that you have it or distance? Have you had family distances? Go for it. Has family distance from you, or are you still all tight-knit group?
Well, as of right now, I'm currently with my parents as part of shelter in place with this COVID-19. But overall, my parents, particularly my mom, has really pushed me to live independently.
Beautiful.
Me to get out there. And I was a bit nervous on living independently, but my parents really wanted me to live independently. They help me out in any ways I can to live independently. They help me pay my rent. They help me with some toiletries. Sometimes I like go out my way of saying, well, how can I repay you? Everything okay?
Yeah, I got you, Andrew. I got you. So families, though, do tend to distance themselves from a parent that has an autism child. And we have to say, no, that's not right. And it's sort of like, I guess, reversing human nature, isn't it? To drive away from something that's maybe scary or daunting. But how can we encourage families to stick together, to approach going through autism together?
Well, to keep together is to be in unity together. Like like with my parents and my grandmother and one of my own relatives and some family relatives, we try to stay together. We try to see that we are all equal together as family. I mean, every Thanksgiving I go I go back down to the Hudson area to be with my family, and no family has distanced themselves
Beautiful.
together.
Beautiful. By the way, Andrew can be found at outspeaker91@gmail.com. We were on Spreaker this morning, and Andrew, thank you so much for spending some time with us, and we will definitely have you back. And as social distancing does end, tell us what your tips are going to be after that. I'd love to hear from you.
Well, once social distancing stops, and once this horrid COVID-19 stops, have this clear message. Is go out, be together, be one, be be happy, and just be lucky that that you have someone who cares about you and who is willing to go the extra mile to be your friend.
Mm. Well, and I hope friendships can grow stronger through this and after this, right, Andrew? And by the way, you're right. We got to do a Zoom call of all our physically challenged Irish American youth team guys and gals. I mean, it's been too long.
12 years.
12 years. All right. We'll make that happen. Andrew Maggio, thanks for joining us. And again, let me get that again. outspeaker91@gmail.com. That's where you can find Andrew Maggio for more information. Andrew, thanks again for joining me.
No problem.
And I'm Alexander Garrett. Have a great rest of your Saturday. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.